From tiny, desolate islands to top-secret Russian bases, these are remote abandoned places and machines. Number 7. Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky 54, Russia. This incredible ghost town was a secret Soviet submarine base established during the Cold War at a time of deep tensions with the West. Today, it has become a hard-to-reach tourist attraction on the Kamchatka Peninsula, better known as Russia's land of fire and ice, for its volcanoes and glaciers. The base was constructed in the 1960s for submarines of the Soviet Pacific Fleet. It was codenamed Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky 54 after the nearest town and the last 2 digits of the base's postcode, which doesn't sound so top secret to me, but whatever. The site was pretty remote, and in the winter it could only be reached by boat, helicopter, and sledge. The site had 8 3- to 5-story accommodation blocks, a headquarters building, a school, supermarket, post office, leisure center, boiler house, stores, warehouses, and a refueling facility. All of that was serviced and restocked once a week by a supply ship. The naval base was abandoned in 1996 and the submarines transferred to a nearby facility. After its abandonment, the site became a ghost town with a beached former supply ship greeting visitors who dare to explore here. In May 2020, the former naval base was selected as a site for a new liquefied natural gas transshipment hub for Novatek. It is intended to handle 20 million tons of product per year, and the work is forecast to cost $1.5 billion. So we will see if anything actually changes around here. Number 6. Muli, Pharaoh Islands. It's not every day you stumble across a 14th century village in one of the most inhospitable and remote regions of the world. And even less likely is the fact that the village was the birthplace of one of the most famous wizards of the area. Gutorm Imula was born in 1657 and quickly became a local legend when he used his supernatural powers to help his neighbors. It's not clear how powerful or what level wizard he was, but hey, it was the 1600s. In the 20th century, the village experienced a rapid depopulation. To combat this, the government built a road to the town, but it sadly did not help at all. At this point, the village is nothing more than a ghost town with a total population of 4. One of the houses from the village was transported to the Open Air Museum in Belgium, as it exemplified architecture and building techniques from its time perfectly. Number 5. The Monsil Seaforts, England. Apart from looking absolutely badass, these Seaforts served a real important purpose during the war. In 1942, Guy Monsil figured out a way to build a fort on land and transfer it to sea easily. So that's how we ended up with 4 Navy and 3 Army forts in the Thames estuary. Each of the towers stood on 4 concrete legs. The buildings on top of these legs were made of steel, had 2 floors, and measured 36 feet by 36 feet. At any given time, there were 265 men stationed at each fort. You can imagine how freaking desolate, cold, and dangerous it was, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do when your country's being mercilessly bombed by the Axis powers, right? It wasn't without purpose either. While in operation, the forts shot down 22 planes and 30 bombs. Many of you have probably heard about the Principality of Sealand and the absolute mad lad that formed it, Roy Bates, who among other things was a pirate radio broadcaster and a major in the British Army during World War II. In 1996, Roy and a friend took over the Rough Sands fort and started broadcasting their sweet, sweet pirate radio stations. Long story short, Roy got in a fight with his friend. His friend left, and later came back to claim the fort as his own. Roy defended himself from the attack, but was promptly arrested. Wonder why. As the trial went on, it was found out that the fort was in international waters, thus not under the jurisdiction of the British court system. Roy Bates took this as a de facto recognition of his country and 7 years later issued a constitution, flag, and national anthem, among other things, for the Principality of Sealand. Number 4. Delphi Oil Tanker, Black Sea. In November 2019, the oil tanker Delphi crashed near Dolphin Beach on the Black Sea. close to Odessa for anyone who knows where that is. As a result of the accident, the nearby coastline suffered from oil pollution, which increased with the onset of warm summer months. The ship owners promised they would remove the tanker from the beach before March 31st of 2020, but things happened. Surprisingly, by August 10th, 2020, the operation to save the tanker was in full swing. I don't usually cover ships that were successfully saved, but this one really made an impression on me. It seemed like it was in a really bad shape, but as of writing for this video, the ship is alive and well, transporting oil once again. Number 3. Tereberka, Russia. As a settlement, Tereberka was first mentioned in 1523. Eyewitnesses from that time period confirmed the appearance of permanent Russian settlers. However, according to other sources, it was founded in the 1860s, the decade when the Murman coast was actively being settled. By the end of the 19th century, it was well developed, having a church, lighthouse, and weather station. The first one on the Murmansk coast, actually. In the beginning of the 20th century, Tereberka had well-developed cod and shark fishing businesses. And by the end of the 1920s, the first collective farm was organized in the village. It included a dairy farm and a reindeer herd in addition to the fishing boats. Tereberka developed quickly after the war. In the 1940s through 60s, there were 2 fishing farms, 2 dairy farms, a poultry farm, a 2,000-head reindeer herd, an American mink breeding farm, and 2 fish processing facilities in the village. So how did it all go wrong? The downfall of Tereberka began in the 1960s, when the district was transferred to the jurisdiction of the town of Severomorsk. As ship tonnage increased and fishing fleets were able to travel more easily in the open ocean, the coastal fishing business became less important. A newly constructed fish processing complex in Murmansk put smaller processing facilities in Tereberka out of business. During the process of enlargement, the collective farm Murmanets was abolished along with its mink farm. The reindeer herd was transferred to the village of Lovozero, so there you go, just like that. Everything got destroyed. Nowadays, it's a village littered with abandoned fishing vessels and disused buildings. Kinda crazy to see, isn't it? Number 2. The DC3 Iceland. The country that's pretty much on everyone's bucket list offers some incredible views, desolate landscapes, and completely untouched nature. But if you want something a little bit out there, let's focus on the US Navy Douglas Super DC3 wreck site. On November 24th, 1973, this plane crash landed. There were no casualties, but due to the remoteness of the location, the plane was never recovered. Since then, it has become a somewhat popular tourist spot. Eventually, all good things must end. The local farmers that own the land have completely shut down access to the wreck since tourists did not care about the local environment. I'm sure there's a possibility of private access if you're nice enough. Number 1. South Georgia Island. The island of South Georgia was probably discovered in 1675 by Anthony de la Roche, a London merchant, and was named Roche Island on a number of early maps. It wasn't until the mariner Captain James Cook made the first landing, survey, and mapping of South Georgia, as mandated by the Admiralty. On the 17th of January 1775, he took possession for Britain and renamed the island the Isle of Georgia for King George III. Commercial sealing was conducted on the island between 1786 and 1913. Sealing-era relics include iron tripods, hut ruins, graves, and inscriptions. This is why you see so many abandoned fishing vessels around the island. I want to really make sure you know how remote this damn place is. Here are some directions for you. Fun fact, the island lies in the path of large icebergs drifting northward from Antarctica. Iceberg 838 grounded off the island in 2004, resulting in indirect but severe effects on local wildlife by disturbing life on the seafloor and blocking foraging routes of seals and penguins. In 2020, the colossal 1,600 square mile iceberg A68, similar in size to the island itself, was initially believed to be on a similar collision course, but thankfully it broke up before reaching the island. Check out the featured comment below, subscribe for more World Unearthed, and I'll see you in the next video.